I'm just a mess. And so I've been able to express this. And I will say this, there is so much power in not only stepping into your space and owning it, but speaking your truth to the world. It is so incredibly liberating when I did that in San Diego. I cannot express how much power, because if you're still dealing with this, he is still controlling you. That's how I look at it. If I am so afraid to express and show even me at my most vulnerable, the guy who caused all of this is still in control of who I am and what I want to be, and me being at my best is being able to, okay, here it comes. There was when we lived in our first house, Sausalito, I was having a rough day with this stuff. And I was just sitting in the bedroom. I said, okay, hold on. I like me. So I got up and I went into the bathroom and just looked myself in the mirror. And I just said, I like you. You're a good guy. You really are a good guy. Yeah, you like to mess with people, but I like me. And if no one else likes me, that's just too bad. And I started to get better with this. Because I think part of, and I don't know about you, but part of, for me, was just accepting that whoever I am, with all the scars and all the things that I screw up and mess up and blah, 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 I still like me. And if other people don't like me, that's their problem. I'm doing the best I can do. What did you think when you just heard him say that?
I was thinking a while ago, saying that sort of, I guess, a metaphor for that conversation in that room was you guys realized that you were that your sisters had been in a prison this whole time, and you being told about this, you were invited into that prison, and then being told not to talk about this, you were told, you're in this prison as well, but yours is going to be a smaller one. And sort of thinking that all of you are sort of imagining as having been placed in individual cells, and over the years getting comfortable with the size of the cell.
Wow.
And thinking
that's crazy.
That you might now be walking around without the cells, but there's still shackles.
Yeah.
And
I don't know that you ever completely get rid of them.
Yeah.
And so do you take those shackles and try to create something positive out of them?
I think, do you take those shackles and say, here they are, just, this is, I'm not going to let these drag me around. I'm not going to let them drag behind me and hold me back. I'm going to pick them up, and they are going to propel me forward. I guess sort of out.
Wow. Would you like to be able to just talk about your stuff? Does it ever get to be so heavy for you? Because there are days when it's just so heavy. It just depends. It could be a song, could be something. I'm thinking about days.
It would be nice to have somebody to do that with. But I guess there's also an element of being out of respect for my sisters. There's just few people that I'm just going to actually discuss that whole situation with. It would be nice, but that's got to be a very special situation.
Like I said, I just decided he doesn't get to have that control over me anymore.
Right.
Mom doesn't get to have that control over me anymore. I'm going to move how I'm going to move. I'm going to talk about this whomever I want to. And it's interesting. Louise is very much the same way. She's just, I'm talking. And in talking to her about it, she said, it just released me. I just had no more, like you're saying, shackles. I just didn't have that oppressed feeling that I can't talk about it. And then she found that she could actually help more people. Going back to what you just said, how would you, what type of advice could you give possibly other men who may be feeling the same way about you so that they can learn to move forward? Is there a way that they can take what you're going through as a lesson to find someone to talk to, and granted you admit that it's still quite the challenge for you.
If I was going to give anybody any advice about what to do, the biggest thing is, just like when you had to go through your revelation, the biggest thing is you got to realize that we're carrying it.
Yeah.
We think we're not, but we are. And even as the years go by, as you think about it from time to time, you still dismiss it as not your problem. It's, you're a part of it. It kind of happened around you, but you weren't really part of the situation. Because we weren't talking about it. We weren't sharing experiences. We weren't sharing feelings about it. So you have to understand that your emotions may cause you to do things that you really don't understand, because you may be angry about something and not know what the real cause of it is. So we have to understand that we are carrying the weight, and the weight is emotional.
Well, to that end, how has what we've experienced impacted your relationship with other people, and specifically with women? How has it impacted?
It's an interesting contrast, because while there are, to a certain extent, unless I'm like actually in love with somebody, then I will reveal those kinds of things. At the same time, in any relationship that I've been in, because of this history, I've been very cognizant of a woman's feelings and where she may come from and what she has probably more than likely had to deal with in her life.
Yeah, probably.
Because at this particular point, you have to almost assume that I don't even know if 9 out of 10 is enough. You have to assume that women have gone through things, because growing up as a woman in this world, dude, is completely different. I mean, not that guys don't have their challenges and go through their things as well, but for being born a girl in this world, from day one, you are a potential victim.
You're a target.
Target. Every single day of your life. It doesn't stop. So this situation, our family situation, has made me very aware of that. So I'm tried to be the best kind of guy I could be for any woman that I was dealing with. But at the same time, the dark parts of me and my experiences are still held close to me, because it's difficult to get somebody into that space.
How has it impacted your relationship with your daughter?
I'm at the point now where where I should admit it's a struggle to get to the point where to discuss this openly with her. But it is something I do want to do, but it's still a struggle. But it doesn't interfere with our relationship, because I love my daughter to death. But that particular part of my life, I have not revealed to her yet, because I didn't want her carrying it early in her life.
Yeah. It's interesting, because our older half brother, knowing that I'm working on this book, I remember he said something to the effect, okay, I need to get out in front of the herd on this one. I need to tell some people what's about to come. Because if they get it the same time I do, then I'm imagining what he's saying is they're not going to process it in the way that it needs to be processed.
Right.
Some things will be taken out of context.
Right.
Especially because of the way like you tell a story. You know, it's like it's a cinematic type thing. And granted, everything in the thing is true, but he said, I need to be ahead of the herd on this. And that makes a lot of sense to me.
Right.
Because knowing what he has experienced around this and knowing what he's experienced because we share the same father.
Right.
That's how we end up being half brothers. He's our older brother. Knowing things that he experienced with our dad before his dad became our dad, we all begin to kind of compartmentalize our feelings around abandonment, betrayal, around all those things, and they impact every relationship that we have, even with our children. So when it comes to sisters, if you were going to sit a sister down, not our sister, but another sister, and you know that their brother is also struggling with this same type of thing, how would you attempt to educate your sister so they can help their brother? And I'm not talking about mansplaining anything. I mean, just this is what he's going through.
Right.
And he could use your help here. Because as we know, no one asks us men, how do we feel? You know, do you need to talk? We are just set adrift. So if you were to sit down with a sister and say, this is how you can help your brother, because I know this is what he's going through.
I would say first for her to understand her brother wanted to be her hero, and he didn't get a chance to be that. And because he didn't get a chance to be that, he is disappointed in himself because he thinks he should have done more, even though, you know, whatever the circumstances are, it didn't make that possible for him to do. But your brother wanted to be your hero, and to this day he wants to be your hero. And you let him know that whatever he's feeling, it's okay, and that you do love him. That's the most important thing, is to let him know that you do love him and that he didn't do anything wrong. He didn't let you down. That he didn't betray you, because those are the things that he's dealing with. That's what I would say.
Do you guys wish you had ignored the being told not to talk about it? I think you wish you had gone to your sisters and said, I know you told me I can't talk about this, but it's something I need to do.
You want to take a run at it first?
At that age, I think a lot of that would have to do with how you were raised and how you were brought up and how you were allowed to express yourself or how you were allowed to speak.
Your emotional maturity.
Yeah. Because especially in the heat of the moment like that, you can't do it. But then later on, it just gets deeper and deeper and darker, and then, you know, well, how am I going to do it now? Okay, well, how am I going to do it now? Well, how am I going to do it now? And you just get stuck in that rut.
I agree. There's almost, it's like when it took me 9 years to confront Henry on this, because mom's going to handle it. She's going to do it. Well, I'm not old enough. I'm not big enough. He's so much bigger than me. All these excuses are just that. They're excuses, but they are a warm blanket that protects you. And so as time goes by, it's a warm blanket that protects you. It means you don't have to confront your failings or your perceived failings by talking to your sisters. You know you want to talk to them, but time just spreads, and we went decades. And when I finally spoke to our second sister, I had gone over to her place. I was so scared. The two scariest phone calls of my life was calling her to tell her I want to come talk to you about this. Because I knew she was going to say, wham, no.
Right.
But I should have known better, because that's just not her nature.
Right.
But you're afraid because you've been told not to talk about it. And so that was 100-pound phone that I had to pick up. The 1,000-pound phone that I had to pick up to call the twin sister to go out to Santa Clarita. Because they had already told us and made it very clear they didn't want to talk to us. But when I got there, she was just so warm and inviting. She was just crazy, her, all the time, as she always is. And it turns out she thought all along that we boys knew.
Wow.
She thought for 40 years we knew what had happened.
Wow.
I'm like, no. What do you mean he got to you? What are you talking about?
Right.
Yeah.
And she's like, you didn't know? No, I didn't know anything. This is the first time I'm hearing of it. And that's because the conversations didn't take place. They're really hard. They're friggin' scary.
When you said it's like a comfortable warm blanket, it is absolutely amazing what can become comfortable.
Yeah. Well, there's also, I mean, not just, you also had what do you call it? The demons in your midst. Too, you know, it wasn't just I can have a conversation.
That's true,
like
too.
you had the perpetrators of this evil.
That's true too.
Just standing over your shoulders if you even attempted to.
Yeah.
That blanket, though.
It's deep,
It's
dude.
like, okay, I don't have to do anything. I just snuggle up and I'm
It's
cool.
something. And you know it's not right.
And you know it's not right?
You know you need to get rid of it. But it's just that comfort zone, dude. It's wild.
And it turns out they wanted to talk to me.
Wow.
They wanted to talk to us. That was what blew me away. Yeah, everyone's afraid to talk. And brothers and sisters, we are the ones who can help each other. Because I think as much as I may think they need to talk to me, it is nothing compared to my need to talk to them. And men and women who are innocent victims, such as we were, we can be allies.
Right.
You know, we don't have to have our individual or gender-based victimhoods weaponized against the other.
Right.
You know, and there are many ways of doing that. Through silence, through explicit behavior, through direct conversation. But I think one of the things that happens, that fear becomes kind of a weapon to protect you from everyone else approaching you, and you just don't talk.
That conversation, as scary as it is the best thing that you could possibly do.
Yeah.
And it's the only thing that'll get you out. Nothing else will. And, you know, when you see people who are just, you know, doing bad on the streets and all that kind of stuff, I venture to guess that all those people are dealing with something like this. Because and especially being a brother, you not knowing how to handle it, not really knowing that that's what you're trying to process.
Yeah.
You just go round and round in circles. You don't know what's going on.
It caused me to look up the definition of PTSD, because every time I've heard about PTSD up until a few years ago, it had to do with military service.
Right?
But if you look up the definition of PTSD and what qualifies, one of the main definitions is childhood trauma through sexual abuse.
Jesus Christ.
I didn't
You
learn
don't hear
that till
that.
4 years ago.
You don't hear that.
Is a PTSD trauma through child sexual abuse, molestation,
Man.
rape, direct or indirect victim of. We have
Direct
been
or
dealing.
indirect.
Yes. And so this leads me to my next question. There are plenty of support groups and things for women. Our sister pointed this out to me. There are just so many things out there that women, we talk to each other, there's support groups. She says, but Nick, there's nothing out there for you guys.
Right?
She said, there's got to be something. I said, there is nothing. There is absolutely nothing. There has to be some creation of some sort of group for men whose sisters or they need to be able to talk to someone. Because I've spoken to a couple of child psychologists. They don't want to talk to me on the podcast because they have told me they don't know what to do to help me.
Wow.
But they tell me, they say, you sound like you're okay. I say, I am okay. I'm not talking about the podcast for me. This is for me, but other men. But the interesting part of it is, you're going to tell me there's nothing for men, but there's plenty out there for women. But if I were to sit down and tell you my entire family was just lost in a car crash 3 months ago, I'm hurting, I'm in pain, can you help me? Yes. Cut the check. But if I come to you with this, it's the same pain. It's the same trauma. It's the same anxiety. It's the same fear. I got nothing for you. And it's because I think it's because I'm a guy talking about sexual abuse. Because even some of our friends say, I've spoke to a couple of women. Now let me talk to you about this. If a guy, if a brother found out that his sister who was molested by a parent decides to go back to their parent and establish relationships, is that okay? But what if the guy, and they cut me off, you got nothing to do with it. You don't have a say-so in it. I said, but wait a minute. How can it be that it's okay for them to go back and establish relationships without talking to me? But if I do it without talking to them, they are pissed. How dare you go back and not consult me? And what that leads to is it's only the domain of sisters, of women who get to have this kind of help, get to have this kind of
Support.
Support. But we need those same type of conversations.
Absolutely.
It's interesting. I had a couple of women have emailed me recently. So, has anyone in your family gone back and established a relationship with your mom? And I'm like, well, yeah. I said, that's, I tried it early because I had a son. I wanted him to get to know her, but I don't have that kind of relationship with her now. So they're asking me, well, why are your sisters going back? I said, but that's their call. Doesn't mean I'm going to agree with it, but that's their call. But it's interesting that it's women asking me if other women have gone back and established relationships. Not have you brothers gone back. And so the reason why I bring this up is it just shows what is acceptable for women and what guys we still have to struggle to go through. And we need our sisters, we need our wives and other women to help us. Because we don't talk to each other. We really need them to help us process our pain and trauma. And they got their own. There's absolutely no doubt about it. They deal with stuff that's horrific every day. So if we have kids, and we have nephews that obviously have been here, I thought early on the best way, and I still believe this to be true, the best way to educate him is to tell him what happened. As soon as he and Sydney were old enough. I think you have to talk about it because I think as young men, particularly today with some of the music and some of the things that are available to them internet-wise, that they understand there is a responsibility that you must have when it comes to women. Women are not toys.
Right.
Their feelings aren't something that can just be tossed aside. They must be viewed and treated with respect always. And part of me telling him early, do you remember how old you were when I told you?
I think I was maybe 12. Was I in middle school? I might have been in middle school.
Yeah. I just felt he had to know. Because I always thought, okay, he's seeing me go through some stuff. He might not understand it. Like, okay, he needs to know why I'm acting like this, or why I'm viewing this like this, or why I'm just saying, oh, why is that guy saying that to this woman? Why is she doing that?
Right.
And it's like, he might not know. But like you, it's because I'm carrying all this baggage.
Well, like there was years ago, we were talking about some of the things. I was talking to somebody about some of the things I do when I'm around my mom or Sid, like how I position myself when I'm getting into a car. Like if you're driving, I'm going to put myself on the other side so that if they're in the car, then either of us can get out. Like this is something we never spoke about. Or
You do what now?
like if you're going to be driving and if you're driving in the car and mom and Sid are sitting, I'm going to go to the other side of the car and sit on that
Right.
side. So that if something happens and somebody comes for them, then I know you're on one side and can handle whatever's on that side.
Right.
I'm on the other side, I can handle whatever I can handle.
Oh, really? Wow. Okay.
But also just walking around with women at all, how I
So he's positioning himself based on how I'm positioned. I don't even know
Right.
it.
It's amazing what your kids do, dude.
and just sort of seeing other, because I started doing it when I was a boy. I was seeing other boys and men not doing that, and not being, the way I look at it, hyper conscious of where the women I'm with are in relation to me and those around them.
Yes.
And I'm not sure, like I might have imitated what you were doing, just, doing that, but I'm not sure I would have understood and consciously started doing it if I hadn't known.
Uh-oh.
Wow.
That's interesting.
That's nuts, man.
But it's good.
It's good nuts. Do I really want to say it like that? That's good to know. Wow. Well, I think we can kind of start to wrap this. If I hadn't started doing this podcast, if I hadn't even started doing this book, we would not be sitting here having this conversation. If I had started this book in 2013, I never would have started talking to my sisters about it.
Right. And we'd still be at that same place.
We'd still be at that same place. I have spoken to
It's possible.
our brothers.
I say it's possible that your relationship with Aunt Louise wouldn't be where it is today if you hadn't started that.
Absolutely.
If you hadn't started.
I am certain it would. It
It would have
not
just
be.
disappeared again.
Because I spoke to Auntie Cookie about it and asked her if she would contact, Aunt Louise, and see if she would be willing to talk to me about it. And would you also contact our oldest sister and see if she'd be willing to talk to me about it? But it's only because I started this. And I am in complete agreement with you. Our relationship would not be what it is today with any of them. It's just the one, the youngest of the four girls who I don't really speak to. But it's because of this book. And then so much of it goes back to Cosette. She just made it okay.
Yeah.
Like she did for you. She just made it okay. She's quite special.
She's special.
Yeah. And so we are able to enjoy 3 of our sisters after years of not speaking.
Mm-hmm.
So, did you have any, any question, observation before we?
It's just that I'm happy that as a guy who, to this day, I haven't spoken to my aunts directly about it, because I don't I feel I am. I know I have been affected greatly by it, by what happened,
Mm-hmm.
but I feel too far removed to be able to talk to them about it.
Mm-hmm.
But I appreciate being able to have the opportunity to be able to speak about it with my
Right.
dad and my uncle, to sort of hear how you processed it,
Yeah.
and I guess sort of in a way how I process it.
Mm-hmm.
You got anything you want to finish up with?
Can I have a closing remark?
No, you don't need a closing remark. Just say, no.
I'm glad you're doing this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why?
Because it leads to honesty about everything. And when it gets right down to it, honesty is the only thing that can save any kind of relationship, any kind of family. Otherwise, you don't really have a good foundation. So I think it's good.
Thanks. It has been.
I have not envied your position.
Man,
I have not envied what you have had to go through.
I thought the book was a heavy lift.
Uh-huh.
And then I started doing the podcast.
Uh-huh.
And I'm listening to me tell the stories all over again.
Yeah.
And as I'm editing the podcast, right? And I sit there, and some days it just starts coming down. Like, what? I didn't do this. He did that. Wow. And so I'm constantly reliving it. But I know the reason that I am being made to go through this, number one, is by choice.
Mm-hmm.
I choose to do this. Number two, I have the shoulders. I've always told myself I have the shoulders. I can carry this.
That's a good phrase. I like that.
Yeah, I can carry this. I'm good. I can tote it up that hill. I'll just keep going. That's fine. I may slip every now and then, but okay, I'm gonna make it happen. But through our family's experience, it is my wish that we help so many others. And it is my wish that at some point in the future, sooner than later, there can be 4 or 5 of us talking about this. Some sisters in on this conversation, a panel discussion that would not only be educational, but it would be a hell of a cathartic experience. And like you're saying, you have to talk. You really, really do. So, well, that's the podcast for this behind
right,
the look,
folks.
behind the book, helplessness. I'm glad you did this. Really,
I appreciate it.
It's good, and definitely glad that you decided to join in and make this, because you had some observations. I was like, what? Okay. We're out of here.
Also, we've all been vaccinated.